Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm just here, just wanting to make another video. Before I get into the topic of the video, I just want to say thank you to those of you guys who came out to the pop-up last week when I was in Chicago with my team at Terry Black's, and even for those who couldn't make it, but still sent me text messages of wishing me luck and just congratulating us on the success that we had there. It was really, really awesome. And I know I say this every single time, but it's just always so humbling to see how many people come out. And we've been trying to, every single pop-up that we've done, we're trying to do more and more food, and we continue to sell out. So I don't really have any plans to do a pop-up anytime soon yet, but for sure, it's kind of in the back of my mind all the time, trying to figure out, when's the next time to do it, best time to do it, what I want to do differently, and, how I can feed more people so we don't have, a whole bunch of people who are just standing outside in line. So, as that information comes available, I'll be sure to let you guys know. But again, I just want to say thanks a lot. So the topic that I want to talk about today is this idea that I've actually been writing about the last couple of days, and this idea is about something that's something that's hard compared to something that's too hard. And I think it's these two ideas that, even though they sound very, very similar, I think the mentality that we may have as individuals, as we, when we're working on something and we say something is hard compared to something that's too hard, is drastically different. For example, if I'm saying that I'm working on something, I'm like, man, this is hard. A lot of times I kind of like chuckle and say like, man, this is hard, or this is really hard. But, I still have that curiosity, that interest in order to kind of overcome that difficulty. And I'm looking for ways to kind of battle through it. Well, in other cases, usually when I say something is too hard, it's often a feeling of kind of discouragement, of being defeated, of, man, I tried this, I feel like I put my best foot forward, and this is just too hard. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how I'm able to, I don't know how other people are doing it. I just can't do it. And those are the two ideas that I really wanted to talk about and explore a little bit. I think there are a lot of times where we approach certain things and we find that, when we first get into it, that it's really interesting. We're very curious about it. We like the whole idea of whatever we're about to approach. It might be a new job. It might be a new hobby. It might be something that our friends or someone that we know or acquaintances are working on, and we just kind of want to know what it's about. So we go into it. And we try to, do the same steps. We try to process the same way that they've done it. We ask people, how did you do it? Or what are the steps that you took? And oftentimes we run into roadblocks and we're just like, man, this is too hard. I don't know how this person does it. The reason why this, I think, came up a couple weeks ago is I did my first sparring in one of our boxing sessions. And I was going. It was 10 rounds. 5 rounds of body shots, and then 5 rounds of just everything going against my trainer. And I was definitely not ready for it. And I realized that, man, my cardio isn't where it should be for a boxing match. I'm new. He's been doing it for years. He has about 20 pounds, 30 pounds on me. And I was like, man, this is too hard. I don't think I am cut out for this. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And I just really I just wanted to call it quits. And it was in that moment where I realized that this is the reason why why I wanted to boxing, is because I knew it was going to be something at the moment was too hard, right? I think anytime we start something, we don't know anything about it. It's not anything that we've trained for, anything that we've necessarily built up the talents for. And at that moment, that one thing that we're trying to achieve, or goal that we were trying to achieve, is too hard. That's just how it is sometimes. And so it's about trying to get to that mentality of taking something that we might see at that time as being too hard and change it into that's hard. Now, when I say when it's hard, it's still very, very difficult. But now we have that mindset, the mentality that, look, it's difficult, but as I continue to train and do these little parts in between is when that too hard becomes, still very hard, but I know how to accomplish this, or I know that I'm achieving goals as I go, and then eventually that idea of too hard is now gone now. So the question becomes not identifying whether we know something is hard or if it's too hard. It's okay, well, regardless of whichever it is, how do I overcome these things, or how do I what is the plan in order to overcome this, and how, like, what are the steps? And for me, I feel like the most important thing is knowing your three big numbers right here. So the first number is your 24, your second number is your 168, and your third number is your 672. Now, what do those numbers mean? And basically those numbers for me are, your 24 is the 24 hours in one day, the 168 is the hours in 1 week, and that 672 is your hours in 1 month. And the reason why I broke it down like this is because I think a lot of times, usually when we're trying to think about this big plan or this big vision for ourselves, we usually think of long term, what we want to look like in the end, which is typically around a month or so. So that's our 672, that number of hours there. And the thing that I feel when I talk to people who are getting frustrated with different things is that they don't really set up, short-term goals for themselves in the process. They only have that long-term goal in mind. And one of the biggest, I would say, goals that I hear a lot of people talking about is, I want to get abs, right? That's always that big thing when we're getting into fitness is, I want to get abs, and that's usually still probably, a month and a half, maybe 3 month process. But, because that's their only goal that they set in their mind, what's the one thing that everyone does is they go to the mirror, and then every morning they lift up their shirt and just see if there's abs forming. And it becomes frustrating because it's very, very small incremental changes that lead to that in the end. But without those short-term goals in between to, give yourself a sense of accomplishment for setting up these goals or accomplishing these goals, it's going to be very, very, very difficult to get there. For example, for short-term goals that I usually set myself, if I was, again, like I shared a while ago, I really got into fitness because I was basically challenged Fred saying that I was going to get abs in 3 months. And so I had to set up goals in between because I was getting so frustrated because I knew there was so much work in between. And, I think the one thing that, the different types of goals I had to set for myself were not physical or not visual. It was just that I was on track with things that I had to do in order to accomplish those things. For example, I would say that when I was first starting, I said no cheat meals for the first 2 weeks. So those 14 days, I would not have a single cheat meal. And also during that time, I was going to the gym every day, regardless of whether I was lifting or if I felt tired or sore, and I was just going to do some sort of cardio and stuff like that. That's what I was going to do. And the thing with those kind of goals is, yes, those 2 weeks were very strict, right? I didn't go out and eat. I didn't miss a day in the gym, but there still wasn't a big change in terms of my long-term goal, right? My long-term goal was getting abs, but there wasn't that much of a change within those 2 weeks. But I knew that that those short-term goals I set wasn't about me, achieving that one goal. It's that I was doing the small things in between to help me get there. So again, the big thing that, I want to be able to, kind of like a plan to create for yourself is, yes, we want to know where we want to be in the long term, but what are the short-term goals that we can continuously knock off weekly or even daily if possible? We can set goals like that to help us to be encouraged as we go throughout our weeks to be like, I did that, I'm going one step closer to my goal. I'm going 1 week closer to my goal. And, even then, that month goal that we set comes pretty quickly, and we can start to see gradual changes because we set these goals in between. And for myself, that's the thing that I feel like I've been missing in terms of with this boxing, or in terms of continuously wanting to grow within this hopefully new barbecue career, is that I've had these long-term goals that I've set in my mind, and but I haven't really processed what are the small goals that I want to achieve in between those milestones that I need to in order to continuously, keep my mind in it, so that like a month doesn't pass by and I'm realizing that I'm doing the same exact thing, or I'm in the same place that I was before. So again, guys, that's something that, it's just a strategy or a plan that I like to use. Is, you really got to take some time and sit down and think about, what is your goal? How much time are you willing to put into this in order to achieve that goal, and to be realistic with ourselves, to know that, look, maybe we have these long-term goals that we want, and we're getting frustrated that they're not there, but we realize that when we think about it, we haven't done any work whatsoever to accomplish it. And the other reason why I like breaking these up into hours, even though the numbers are kind of obscure, is because, I think there's a lot of times when we put in work into something, we like to clock in the number of hours that we do something. And, at the end of a month, with that, 672 hours, if we, like, for example, this is just an example of just working out. If I was, working out, let's say I clocked in 30 hours in 30 days, so it's about an hour every day. It's, so that number 30 is very important, but how you come up with that number 30 I think is even more important, because if you're doing an hour every day, I think is a great plan in order to get to that goal. But if you're trying to cram in those 30 hours within 2 weeks, right, which means 2 weeks you did absolutely nothing, and because you realize that you're trying to cram everything into those last 2 weeks, there's going to be a dramatic difference between the outcome of, doing an hour every day compared to cutting it in half and just cramming everything together. And so, which is why I think it's really important that we set these short-term, long-term goals, so that, we're not setting ourselves up for failure. We're not setting ourselves up to cram whatever we need to, right? But that we're getting the right amount of time to achieve those goals. But at the same time, we're making sure that they're set up correctly, so that we're not losing or wasting any time in order to get our goals right. So guys, that's what I wanted to share with you. Certain ideas that I would talk about is this idea of something being hard and something being that's too hard for us to accomplish, to even think about, to even approach. But I find it very, very rarely there are things in our life that we come up to that are too hard for us to accomplish. If you really sit down and think about, am I willing to put in the work to do this? Those things that might have seemed impossible become very challenging, but very, very real and approachable, just as long as we have steps and we have people around us who are going to help us accomplish those goals. So guys, hopefully you guys enjoy this video. If there's other things that that you guys are working on, that you're working on this process right now, I would love to hear it. It's just nice to be able to hear from other people who are working on other things as well, that we can kind of share our struggles, and we can share kind of, different things that we want to accomplish to kind of keep ourselves accountable. But guys, thank you so much, and then I'll see you guys in the next video.